mentoring programs have been around for decades because we know that young people need adults in their lives that care for them, whether you're part of the LGBTQ community or any community. There's 5,000 mentorship programs across our country, and less than 1% of them, and maybe as few as 5, actually are focused on LGBTQ youth. And when I started meeting with organizations, I continually heard, this is a big gap and we need something like this. You know, it was just getting that affirmation continually from folks in the community and deciding to kind of harness all of that energy and all of those partners and bring them along. And so we jumped in and started QUEERSPACE, and now we're all on this journey together. I grew up in the 90s, and my mom dated women when I was a kid. And so I was constantly surrounded by queer community. So when I came out, I already had this amazing support, this amazing network of support. Fast forward 20 years later, while we've come really far with gay marriage, and there's a lot more acceptance in our community these days than there has been in the past 20, 30, 40 years. The youth in our community are still dealing with a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety and a lot of discrimination.
The LGBT population that we work with is about 40% of the youth that are in the homeless sector. A lot of times becoming homeless because of choice, not their choice, but family members choosing to no longer care for them. Anytime that there's an opportunity to be involved in culturally specific programming for marginalized populations, I feel a responsibility to just show up.
We know that if a youth is paired with an adult, if they have at least one person in their life, that an LGBTQ youth is 40% less likely to attempt suicide. So we started QUEERSPACE Hangouts, and that's our mentorship program where we match an LGBTQ youth with an LGBTQ adult.
With QUEERSPACE, we're really hoping to give them, another adult, someone else they can spend time with, who's investing in them, who cares about them, and also understands a part of them that maybe we don't fully understand as straight, heterosexual parents.
I can relate to my parents in some ways, but of course, they are heterosexual, so it's a bit harder to relate in those ways. And it's very awesome to have somebody to relate to in LGBTQ plus ways.
Being a queer kid in this day and age, everybody's like, oh, it's so great. You get to be out in the open. It's wonderful. But, it's still hard. With Cyan, we're still in the thick of that. And they'll tell you that, we have good days and we have bad days. And that's tough.
I knew the exact moment when I thought back to the 16-year-old version of myself, and I thought, where was this when I was 16, when I felt like I was the only person that had ever felt the way I did? So I knew in that moment that I had to be involved so that other 16-year-olds that were in my shoes could feel completely different and feel community, feel safe, feel understood.
I think meeting young people where they're at gives you an opportunity to work with them as an individual instead of a standard set of expectations. That's one really cool thing about QUEERSPACE is the matchmaking process, really trying to coordinate and match up people who have like needs or may have strengths that benefit each other.
Youth mentorship has been around for a long time. This was the first one that I saw that identified LGBTQ. And I needed to be part of that.
It's important to have another queer adult in my life, because as a queer person, it's really important to get exposure like that.
Getting to be potentially an agent of change in a young person's life, I think is such an amazing thing. I just feel like having someone to talk to and almost guide you in a way when you're developing as a young person, I think is just so important and so vital.
It's so important to have someone there for you. Especially in the Black community, it's so important to have someone there and just have this representation too.
I hear from the parents that their kids feel like they're just doing a little bit better in life, but I hear from the mentors also the youth are starting to open up more, they're starting to share more of both the joys and the challenges in their life, and they're just, really building those relationships.
Watching Mike be who he is is so inspiring to me that I think to myself, Christopher, you can be more like that. You can be more like Mike and be more authentic in who you are as a gay man.
Growing up, I had no one in my life who understood what I was going through being a gay kid. So Cyan's teaching me so much about really owning my queerness, seeing how out and proud Cyan is living, seeing Cyan be a pillar for their friends to live their true authentic lives as well. Something I could have never imagined doing when I look at myself at 10 or 13 years old.
I'm just blown away by the incredible amount of support that we've received that just comes everywhere, whether it's from the families we're working with or the mentors or local organizations. We're new, we're like a scrappy young nonprofit, and we're really looking to grow this in the Twin Cities, into broader Minnesota and the Midwest.
It's exciting being able to meet this need that's been a huge gap in the community for a very long time. These kids, they're our future, and we really need to be investing in all of our youth, not just the youth that we're comfortable talking to or the youth that we're most familiar with.
It's actually mind-blowing how well it's been received. We've been met with just such excitement and such gratitude. It's so different than when I was a 12-year-old or a 17-year-old. There wouldn't even be an organization like this.
Everyone wants their kid to not feel alone. And so making sure our kid didn't feel alone was huge and a big reason we wanted to support QUEERSPACE. But we're not in this just for our kids. We're in this for all these kids. And finding a way to give them the support to make them feel not just strong, not just confident, but to celebrate who they are.
I feel like it's good to support QUEERSPACE Collective because it'll help queer kids be able to find their own identity and to become more themselves.
I think we get so busy in our lives, and I know that time is a valuable thing. It's not that much of a time commitment to just get involved in little ways.
Reach out to the team. I think they're wonderful. I met them at the Pride Parade, just happened to walk up to the booth because I'm like, oh, fun.
The connection building is what's really important for us right now. So thinking about what organizations that we may be able to partner with.
I would encourage people who are interested in supporting QUEERSPACE Collective to get out of their comfort zone, let everybody in their networks know what opportunities there are.
Making a contribution, being present, showing up for an event or volunteering.
I would just encourage you to learn more about QUEERSPACE Collective, figure out ways that you might support us so that we can really grow our organization and really grow the number of kids that we can work with and really increase our impact.
And it's as easy as going to QUEERSPACE's website, sending an email, saying, hey, where can I donate? Do you need volunteers for this? How can I be a mentor? Asking those simple questions, super easy emails to send, and can make a world of a difference.
If the 16-year-old version of myself were watching this video, I would tell him that it's gonna be okay. And if this organization were in place then, you will feel safe and understood, and it's gonna be okay.
With this, we feel like more people care. And having more people care about our kid is a good thing.